Right, it's Tony McCall here for the McCall to Talk podcast, and I'm very privileged, and that very well-mannered team I went to see the other day in their Super Cup game against York City invited me back to do a bit of a deeper dive, and I've been doing that myself, actually looking into your club a little bit. So just to do a quick round table, I've got with me, maybe you could say hi guys, but Jeremy, Mr. the Chairman.
Yes, hello, I'm Jeremy Reynolds. I'm privileged being the Chairman of Biggleswade FC.
Great stuff. And these two important people here.
Mark Inskip, one of the joint managers, the knowledge, the comedian, basically.
I think one out of those three, is it bat out of hell, whatever, one out of three is maybe true.
Yeah. I'm David Northfield, the other joint manager, none of those.
None of those. Brilliant. So guys, well, first of all, thanks for taking the time. It's currently 7:10. You've got a game tonight with Leverstock Green, and rather than going over that game in particular, because I know you're back into the run of the weekly stuff here, and I know what it's like, so we'll try and keep it brief for you managers particularly. But when I started looking into your club, it actually absolutely blew me away even more than what I already knew, to be honest, when I went away and thought, wow, there's a big story here. And I think my first thing, I wrote down, was it 2016, right,
yeah,
when you formed? So I think not long after that, I took on Dunstable Town, and that was a club that was pretty defunct, you know, in terms of there was nowhere to go. There was no squad, no team, no ground, all these things, and we just walked up to a pitch with some bibs, balls and cones that I borrowed from the club I was working for at the time, and we put a message out for open trials. And we know how tough it is. We was in the Southern League that year. You formed in 2016, and I wanted first of all maybe to ask why, because in an era, let's be frank, I wrote down a list this morning of clubs that have gone, you know, and famous ones, you know. Obviously they've maybe coming back, like Bury or on the way back. Chester, I mean, I remember going there when I worked for Luton. They were still around. They've gone through the mill, and tons of non-league clubs. My first thing was come to me was why? Why would you start a new football club?
Well, the story is that we were an under-18 side, so we formed as Biggleswade Town Youth. They were good enough to let us use the ground, and we played the midweek. Eastern Counties League, I think it was, fellow none. We were lucky enough to. Well, we formed very quickly. We formed because literally at the time my son was at Stevenage, and the whole squad, bar one, were all released. Lee was originally at Ipswich, and they were all released, with none of them getting a scholarship, bar the one lad. And literally the very next day, I rung everybody up, and I said, look, I don't want anyone to miss playing football, so we looked to set the side up instantly, the under-18s. Spoke to Maurice Dorton, who was good enough to say we could beat Biggleswade Town under-18s. It kind of went from that. We ended up picking up some boys from Ipswich Town, one from Spurs, Colchester, Cambridge.
Pretty much all released.
Yeah.
So that would have been not made scholar, or
yeah, it didn't make the scholarship.
Right.
So it was all released at under 16. Yeah. So none of them made the scholarships, and we formed it from there. Jeremy's son played for us, Matthew. So that's where our we both our lads played together at under 8s, and we sort of stayed friends, and it just carried on to that. We managed to get Matthew playing, and the side kind of just went from that, and our sort of claim to fame was Keenan Davis that went on to Aston Villa.
Aston Villa, yeah.
Yeah, so that was our big claim to fame, and during that second season, with one or two of the boys getting a game for Biggleswade Town, I run into Skip, who was running Ainsbury under-18s. He invited me to go over there and said, would you run the under-21s with him? And it kind of just grew from that. We were doing that in the second season of the youth, and all the time. And I ended up helping out with the first team because the manager had gone. And it was going through that season. I actually said to Skip, "Look, I'm going to go back to Biggleswade because I want to form a men's side." And I didn't think he'd come, if I'm honest with you. And I said, would you come? And to my surprise, and thankfully, he said, yeah. And we kind of went from that was in our thoughts. I would suggest to you then quite soon after that, probably spoke to Jeremy and asked him about becoming chairman. And then, as I say, then that was the easy bit, if you like, because we talked about forming a side and we was going to become a men's side, but it was at what level we were going to become. So that's the start of the side where it come from.
Is that fine?
It would be in a change room.
Oh,
I'd
gotcha,
get slaughtered for that. That was someone trying to sell me roofing or something. But yeah, and that's really the real start of the side from that position. I mean, I can go on, but I don't want these two guys to miss out. But that's where we got to, and then and from that position, Skip and Jeremy can take me. But we wanted to go step 6 and not step 7 because we had Biggleswade Town's ground.
So that leads us into you looking to form the club, if you like, the team, but you wanting to go in to step 6, and it didn't work out particularly, or didn't go the way you wanted at first, right? So you had to go through a process, quite a arduous one, I think.
It was an appeal really, because Skip and Dave had been turned down, I think. Mm-hmm. And then on one sunny day we went to an appeal at Wembley. I remember driving up there. And the received wisdom was they never change their mind. Whatever decision they make, they're not going to change it. So we were not particularly hopeful, but we wrote an appeal and made our case. The problem we had was we knew we all had very talented lads, and very talented lads, as they said, would drift away. And as we know, as you know only too well, Tony, the academy system choose people up and lets them go talented boys, but we didn't have a history apart from the under-18s, and the normal circumstances, I think I'm right in saying we would have been put in step 7, but we were arguing for step 6, even though we hadn't got a team, but we knew in our heart of hearts they were good enough. It would have been a wasted season to be step 7. So we wrote this, and then we had somebody on. We were in the very august halls at Wembley with the famous picture of Wembley in 1923 cup final in the background, and we were sitting there. And we did have an ally on the panel who talked about, do you remember, extraordinary circumstances or something? There was that clubs could do. There were a couple of precedents of clubs that had been put in at step 6. And so he was an ally to us, and they almost started talking about it amongst themselves. And so we went back thinking, well, we've done the best we can with our case. And we knew that we qualified for that. And then lo and behold, when it came through, they put us in step 6. But the best thing was we then won that league in the first one together, so we were completely validated in our claim. So
I know you kind of romped that league, like nearly 100 points that season. But was that still the similar squad that you had put together? So this was like pretty much this group of young lads that hadn't quite made scholars.
Yeah, we added, and Skip will tell you, but we added a few from your side, from Skip's side, and just it was all of, obviously Keenan, but it was all of the under-18s at Biggleswade Town. 1 or 2, the goalkeeper didn't keep. The goalkeeper didn't keep. Probably 2 or 3. 1 or 2 went to university, so as you'd expect. And then, like I say, we brought 2 or 3 boys over from Ainsbury, maybe more than 2 or 3 if I'm honest with you. Skippy and Skippy had been doing the under-18s at Ainsbury. I'm going to let him carry on, I keep butting. He'd been doing under-18s for a few years, so he knew 1 or 2 with slightly more experience.
Yeah, I've done the 18s there for 6 years. So I'd had a group of lads who, some of them had gone to university and come back. So when we started that first year, there was the trepidation that we didn't know what we was entering and were we going to be out of our depth, but we won the first 3 games. The first game we lost we should have won, but that sort of galvanised us. And from memory, the 2 Marshes who were still with us, they were both at university, one in Leeds, one in Nottingham, came back for Christmas. We had a couple of lads who were carrying knocks, and we had 3 or 4 games over a very short space of time, and it was Dave's idea, to be fair, but they'd played 21s for us for the year before they went to university, so I got hold of them too, played, enjoyed it. They went back to uni in the January, but were phoning me and Dave up. I'm back this weekend, fancy a game. So next thing you know, they're playing every week. And then 2 or 3 others joined as well, because as soon as word gets around and you're successful, the phone starts to ring, as you probably know, when you're... Yep. Everybody wants to play for you when you're winning and you're near the top.
Yeah.
And it sort of, that season, it sort of spiralled to a point where we had a very strong squad, a very good side. We were winning games of football, and ultimately ended up with, I think it was 99 points from the top of my head.
You may be right, that's what.
Yeah, I think it was what I read, 99, and I certainly don't want to come across as in any way patronising here, because I know you know what you've done, but knowing the game that I do, i.e. working in academies, for example, for 17 years, and kind of battling opinion of what's the right process for players, and there's the 2 major things. One obviously is what you've done to put these lads together, which is to also include and allow and embrace them going to improve their education, which is a massive thing for me, which I think is overlooked. But there's this drop-off of players in this era. In my era, which is quite some time ago now, I think when you defined why we all played, if we didn't make it for whatever reason, if we had half a chance, we'd play again. In this era, there's a huge drop-off at 17, 18, because lads maybe get to that age, it doesn't quite work out, and then are thinking to themselves, this is why I played, which was to be a footballer, i.e. professional career. It doesn't happen, and then they end up not playing anywhere. So on those counts, I think when I started to delve into your club even more, I thought, wow, do these people even... You're kind of breaking the mould of the current era of football, in my opinion.
I think just building on that, I think our experience, and Lee, Dave's Lee and now Matthew, at various other places, you're in danger of them not enjoying it. And it's about playing and enjoying it, and you because they don't make it or something, they drift out, it gets sour about it, or enjoyment, and they're not good enough. Whereas I think what's marked our game all the way up is they enjoy playing with each other, enjoying their football. So I think they've rekindled, they don't just have an opportunity, but they enjoyed coming together and playing, and that longevity has carried through.
Well, I said recently I'd bumped into a lad that had got a scholar at a club that I'd worked at, and I'd seen him down the road playing in the National League South, and I always went to see, and that I mentioned on another podcast recently. That particular lad was devastatingly telling me that he's doing this now, i.e. playing at this level, which was step 2 of the pyramid, and hated playing football, and he was trying to hold himself together whilst breaking this to me as I was his coach for many years. I felt a little bit, wow, what do I do with this? And he's saying to me, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm not good enough to make it, clearly. He was given like extended scholarships within the club that I was at the time, which I always question, if you really believe in the player, just give him pro. Why are you kind of prolonging it? And that's me being cynical. Is it to make numbers up to field teams, which is damaging to that young lad? In my opinion, that lad should have come out, gone to university and come played for your club. And if anything, here you are at a level which is a level where if you are actually very, very much shining through, you could in theory get picked up again and go back, as you've demonstrated.
There's lads at our level that do get picked up, but what some of these guys go through, I mean, none of us have been through. So let's pick Pat McCafferty. He was at Luton with Jeremy's son.
I know him, yeah.
So he played in the same side as James Justin.
Yeah.
Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
So you've got someone like Pat who's playing tonight, who's through the youth side at Luton,
14.
was looking at the dream.
Right out of 14.
14 was it? Yeah. So he's got a potential opportunity to be a professional footballer. He hasn't made it, but if he's watching Match of the Day, he'll be coming across people that he actually played with as a youth side. So they've managed to live the dream, but Pat stayed in the game because we've given him a platform for him to go and enjoy it. in the knowledge that he's never going to be a professional, but he enjoys his football. He plays on a Sunday as well, so he's gone from playing Saturday and Sunday, which we're not particularly happy about on the Sunday. But
I won't grass him up then before. No. I think he was also quite a King Gaelic player, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that is correct as well. Yeah, so he does that. So there's an example of a lad who, for me, is very mentally strong.
Yeah.
Because he's been there, didn't quite make it, didn't walk away, and he plays now. And he's not only is he a good footballer, he's a good guy off the pitch. He's good for the changing room. He's got himself a very, very good job as a quantities surveyor. So he's doing well for himself. And not just talking about Pat, but I think is it 6 months travelling? So he's been out Australia, South Asia. So yeah, he's got on with his life. He's been one of the lucky ones who's managed to think, wasn't for me, wasn't lucky enough, but he's cracked on.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's important to shine a light on that story, because I think it helps the lads that are currently in the system. I myself, only 2 weeks ago, was at watching the Premier League under-16 tournament, which was at Loughborough University. And as you watch it, and I'm watching all the scouts that are everywhere, and I'm obviously all the parents, and I don't know, I just watch it now with trepidation, because you're just thinking how many, even at this level, so these are level 1 academies, how many really are going to get careers or could end up lost like that. And I'm obviously deliberately not saying the lad's name, unless he wanted to openly come on here and talk about it, which I hopefully would be delighted if he would. But you sort of watch some of it and you think, wow, we know that 0.5% are going to make it.
That's right. That's I think when Lee was at Ipswich, they were talking. I think they come up with figures of 5%, but I think you're far closer when you see the boys coming through.
Yeah.
Some of them get lucky enough if they're and it's one of those other things that if you're a kid at Arsenal, you're going to get another chance. If you're a kid at Stevenage, you're not.
That's exactly right, though, because that tournament where I was at had a load of scouts at it for a reason. That is, they're waiting for those level 1s to get released, and it's all the way down the train to whatever carriage you end up at, and hopefully you're still on the train. And there's a carriage left at the end. So that's the reality of the game. And then, of course, for a lot of those, what if they're all currently in a Step 3 or Step 4 club? There'll be a lot of hovering around. Do we sign them? Don't we? Parents will be very worried. And actually, and I've got Ruth here as well. Hi, Ruth.
Hello.
Is that what if the players in level 3 and 4? They'll be kind of delayed, waiting to see who drops down. They're not really making decisions on their career. So do they go to college? Do they sign up for university? So there's just this big stalemate. We're approaching Christmas, and this is when it happens.
Horrible time.
It's just a horrible time because nobody knows what to do. And the club won't budge because they don't want to lose. So it's that I'm not expecting you guys to resolve. I can't resolve it. I spoke up about it, got alienated from the game, so it's a no-no. But I stand by it, and I'm going to expand on that with Ruth.
Very quickly, the only good thing I would say from when I was 15, 16, I wasn't good enough, by the way, but they offered what they call a YTS scheme, youth training scheme. So you'd have players on a youth training scheme, but they were cleaning boots and doing that side of it. At least the football clubs now, you have to go to do further education that then gives you the UCAS points. So you get to 18, and then you should have the backing then to be able to go and do.
Spot on. There is. It's not completely bad. No. It's not as bad as it was.
No.
And also phone calls when you've got horrific injuries from the club saying you're released.
Yeah.
So I know personally what that feels like. So I think you make an excellent point. And my only thing for that is the level of education and the quality of the education. And I think these people would know what I'm referring to there. But before you guys, because I'm looking at the clock very carefully. Before I lose your good selves to tonight's fixture, which I wish you well for, I just wanted to finish up with the comments about the York game, if I may quickly, because I think they've done something outstanding as well as a club, and I thought maybe you might, as much as the game itself can be frustrating, I think I got proven right on one of my calls that I thought I saw, and you know, it's all if, whats and maybes now, isn't it? But take the game away, which was, you performed brilliantly. To have half a chance is amazing, so you did exceptionally well. but that football club has shown a lot of class retrospectively, right?
They've been brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still seeing some of the guys that follow me on X or Twitter. I've actually reposted our game tonight. Just phenomenal they've been with us, and as I say, to give us the money from the gate, the way they were on the day. I know Jeremy will probably go on talk about it more, but in the boardroom I think they were just first class. There was never a us and them, and that's what I loved about them. And in fact, when they come, and obviously this is Bedford's ground, but they were saying that the away changing room is better than some of the away changing rooms have been all season. It was a phenomenal day. I mean, at my age, I hope we get another one, by the way, but that's the highlight for me and everything we've done. You know, we had a great season last year, we won the treble coming up, but to get and play York City, to get that experience, to play in front of them many fans, was just unless we go and surpass it for obvious reasons, and that'll be the next thing, because the guy next to me is it's all he'll talk about. But if we, unless we can surpass it, but both of us two can, we can. It's on our CV. We're not going to. We can only beat that. That's what a day that was.
I thought the whole day, the week leading up to it, my phone was going. I had people that I played with and against said they were coming. I haven't spoke to for years. I've got family members who've never ever watched me play, let alone manage. So I'm panicking, thinking the one game they decide to come and watch, we're playing a National League side who's third. I'm thinking this could go on the end of a right old hiding.
Yeah.
But what York did, they know what they're doing. They're business people. They're very clever. I went to the local pub on Saturday and people were telling me York had won 4-0. They were telling me they're following them on Twitter. They're telling us who scored the goal. The guy who scored against us has scored again. These people would have heard of York City because they're a biggish side going down the years, but they wouldn't have took any notice of York City in the last 10 years. But you've got 20, 30 people talking about York City, talking about where they're next week. They know they've got Barnet, I think it's tomorrow night. They're telling, so York, by doing what they've done, is an unbelievable gesture, but the knock-on effect is now down here around this area. I was looking out for their results.
Yeah, so they've extended their kind of fan base, if you like.
They have,
by acting classy.
And Jeremy's made a good point about half an hour ago when we were speaking. If York get to the playoffs, because they're not quite good enough to win it, which we're hoping they do, and they play local, and our season's finished, I mean, there'll be a few of us that would go down there and watch them.
Yeah, and support them. And I was sat...
Tell the manager what he's doing wrong and give our advice.
and I think even to finish on that York bit, from what I could see, even their fans and your fans, there seemed to be this real mutual respect going on.
It was quite outstanding.
Yeah. So what I'll do, guys, I'm going to press pause, if you like, with the managers, because I know it's like you need to get your head on this game now. So good luck tonight.
Walking there, echo.
Right, so the guys have gone out to get their lads out of the dressing room, otherwise they might forget to go. So we had to let them go, but I'm pleased to welcome Ruth has joined us now, and I actually was thinking, when I was here the other day, Ruth, I've come across you before, and you, Jeremy, and lo and behold, I went back, I even spoke to my lad actually. And my wife, and of course they do remember you from being around the days of Luton.
The Luton, yeah.
Yeah, with your Matthew, and we discussed fondly actually some of the players, but in particular James Justin.
Yes, of course.
And who was around at that time when the kids were, well, my lad, I think they went in. There was a little group up in Stopsley, if I remember rightly, right at the start as well. I remember James Justin being in that group, and his wonderful late father as well, which we spoke about. What a wonderful man.
Much missed.
It was just that. There's some people, aren't there, that are just like beautiful souls. And when I was working at the club, which was quite some time, I used to bump into James, and he would always ask, because my Jack had done his cruise ship, and he never ever, without fail, he would be going upstairs and walk back and say, "Oh, Tony, how's Jack?" And Mick was exactly the same. every time I seen him, how's your family? How's this person? And in particular, how's Jack? And
asked after other people, didn't he? Always his first instinct was to ask after you.
Absolute beautiful person. So I wanted to, with you particularly, in terms of like from a board point of view with the club, I think we touched on why the club was formed. We can see that I think, in my opinion, as I say, I'm not trying to sound smart here, but I just think you're kind of breaking the mould. And maybe, I don't know how much you realise, but for anyone that's been involved in football at other clubs, and everyone would accept that you're doing something really phenomenal here. And the York game was brilliant, but I guess I wanted to think about then, we're currently sitting in Bedford Town. Now, when you haven't got your own ground, so I had a team at Step 3, and do you know what, even we had the ground, I mean, they've got a great relationship now, don't get me wrong, the people they lease the ground from, the council, and it's all great, but you're kind of living out of lockers. So even match day is a bit like, like you've got to put all your own stuff back in the car.
Bring in the boxes, bring in the bags.
And it's like you don't live anywhere, you know. Yeah. And I remember at one point I took a photo of about 25 footballs in my bath at home, having to wash the footballs at home and stuff. And you think that we're playing Hereford, Kings Lynn, Weymouth, Dorchester, Merthyr. I mean, these are big. Proper big football clubs. So I guess what is it like here? I'm sure the hosts are brilliant with you. And what's the plan or the dream to get you into your own facility, which you absolutely deserve? And I've seen a picture which I thought, I've become a fan of yours now, and I think, come on. But the reality is, obviously, authorities, approvals, how do you get there? And can the demographics support it? Is there a population?
Definitely support it, because Biggleswade's growing by the week. Houses are going up all the time.
Yeah. So with the growth, I guess, of the housing, that would be your kind of target market, if you like.
Yes, and there are people in Biggleswade that don't support either of the other teams who may be persuaded to come to us anyway, if we were more local. Well,
there's certainly did I read correctly, there's 7,000 houses going somewhere near you?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of things. I think there's even more than that some places. Biggleswade East has grown, and more is planned, obviously, because like in the southeast there's demand, but there's enormous houses that have been there, but a lot more is planned on the other side. So I think it's, from 20 to almost getting on for double the population.
Right.
It's so removed from the rest of Biggleswade. There's not necessarily an affinity with the town, knowing where the centre is and things. So there's lots of opportunities for supporters. There's lots of opportunities for young players.
But even without the growth, though, Biggleswade is one of the most poorly
served.
Poorly served towns in the country for
facilities,
for sporting facilities.
Okay.
So even without that growth, the town deserves a better facility. So we're not looking just for football, but we're looking to support our community, really.
We're trying to, we say this all the time, we're trying to ride two horses. We're trying to say that Biggleswade, as Ruth said, there's been a deficit of sport and leisure, one of the worst in the country.
Yeah.
So they need to do something different.
Yeah.
And we need a ground, and we're not just banging our own drum and trying to do that. We're trying to say we can be a symbol by doing something for us, which is what we need. We can also be a symbol that Biggleswade's serious about upping its game in terms of leisure and sport.
Brilliant.
So it's those two things, and it's quite a delicate balance, because when you say there's two clubs in the town and one hasn't got it, that could be an argument for saying, well, you don't need another ground, but it could be an argument for saying we want parity with the others. But of course, if we got, like Bedford's facility here, when you get an all-weather, you can reach out to other sports, training.
Yes.
There's all kinds of things there, so that's what we're trying to do.
And every club's got a different approach.
Yeah.
And ways of kind of sustainability and different DNA in terms of the club's culture and these things. And I certainly get that feeling with you guys. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. There is other topics I would love to cover with you, but that noise in my ear that I heard, I think was a bell. And you people are members of the board, and I'm sure we'll be wanting to welcome your opposition and things like that. Okay. So let's park it for now. Let's go watch the game and see if we can bring something back perhaps with the other guys as well. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Right, we're back in here after the game, and quick overview of the game is that the game ended 3-3. I would say I've got two of the players here, which I'll introduce to you in a second, but I'm always on the lookout for players. Obviously, that's my thing, is to highlight players that I see based on the career that I had, looking at the holistic way they play. And but from a football point of view, I'm not in the dressing room with the managers, but I'm pretty certain they'll be pretty frustrated, because I don't know what the lads think. I think, to me anyway, you had to work very hard for your goals, whereas I think at least two of theirs they didn't have to work very hard for. That's kind of, if you was to summarise that game, I'd probably look at it that way. But if you could just maybe grab the mic or get quite close to it if you can, lads, and just I've got Amir, Hadi here, and I've got Dan, Carey-Evens, and if I could start with you, Amir. First of all, before I tell you some things that I pick out about you, but what was your thoughts on the game there?
Overall?
Yeah.
I think overall, frustrating game. I think you'd agree with me on that. And like you said, we had to work really hard for our goals, and I don't think they really needed to. But I think to our standards, I think we should be putting games like this to bed, with all due respect to the opposition.
Yeah, I mean the second goal, where they scored one straight after you scored, and then they're you're sort of sleeping, and they poke one from distance that sort of, I think everyone's caught out a little bit, and then the third's a mistake, and just sticking with yourself, Amir, for a second. I've watched you twice now. Never met you before in my life. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
21 years old.
21.
2003.
Okay, and you're one of the hardest working footballers I've seen in a long, long time. And I would hate to play against you, quite frankly, because you're just an absolute nuisance, constant nuisance. You feel very raw to me, like you play very much with your heart. And I watched you against York, and I actually would love to have been on the fly on the wall in their dressing room at half time, because I reckon they thought they were going to just, bully you. And I saw a very experienced centre-back absolutely terrified, because he went close to you on one occasion, and you went on the half-turn and spun him. And I think he thought, oh, hang on a minute, this is not what I was expecting. So congratulations on that. I love your effort. I mean, the goal that you've worked from nowhere to bring your teammate into score, right, down the left wing. Was that purely just hard work, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can smell something.
Yeah.
And I could smell that, throughout the game. That centre back was giving me a bit of talk, trying to get in my head, whatever. And literally, I think a few seconds before, he's like, "Don't bother chasing down balls. You're not going to get to it."
Is that what he's giving you? Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as he's done that, I think he's got in his own head a little bit and tried to, see the ball out. I've got it the first time.
Yeah.
And he probably had an opportunity to just get rid of it, tried again to just keep it out, and if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, and you're quite I don't mean this as a criticism, Amir, but you're quite an unpredictable player, which I think makes you harder to play against.
Yeah.
And the goal you scored, I don't know where you've pulled. I'd need some sort of science technology to see how you've pulled that off. What have you done there? How have you squeezed that in? I
mean,
it's fantastic, by the way.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Thank you very much. I'd say, I'm the type of player, I play with instincts. So sometimes, I could be frustrating and unpredictable, but for me, I feel like that's what makes me different and stand out to others. Just made it look. I mean, I can use both feet, so maybe that makes it even more difficult for defenders. So I've made it look like I was going to put it in and just shifted, and
I would agree with that. I think that when you get on the ball or attempt to get on it, I think a few people in the crowd fall over as well, because you send in half the crowd the wrong way as well. So yeah, very unpredictable. Congratulations. I mean, you made one, scored one. 2 games on the spin. I've watched you now, and I've got invited back, and I'm glad I did. So keep up the good work on that, buddy. So Dan, I think it's good to bring you in there with a bit of you know, the background that you've got, I'm very interested in as well. But from the game point of view, the off the bench, there's quite a few players come in. You can see there's quite a lot of young lads, which I love, obviously, as well. And you've come in, and again through sort of the team not giving up. Okay, they probably should have done better for 2 of the goals at least, in my opinion, anyway. But you've stuck in there, the team stick in there. They keep passing, they keep playing forward, they keep probing. So I can hear little groans around. Some people get frustrated with that because they want things to be a bit more direct, but they just keep prodding and prodding. And then they get a ball in the box, and then you can't ask any more than to do like a worldie volley, right? So it's straight out the training ground and have that. So good finish. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, sort of they're the moments that keep you playing football, you know, they're the highs. I think it's always hard come in on the pitch as a centre-back because you need to get up to speed with it, and you're very vulnerable if you make a mistake. So, you know, you're just growing into the game a little bit, and I think at the moment I think I needed that goal to sort of, I needed a high in football. It's one of those moments. So yeah, I'm grateful to get it, and yeah, but I mean, it still doesn't sort of change that we should have got something out of the game.
But yeah, I mean, you come in right centre back, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you come in obviously great physique, looking in great shape. I thought you'd done very well. In fact, over the pitch, I'm not in the dressing room. I don't know if it's a tactical thing, but there seems like a lot of freedom as well in open play, players to get forward. The 2 fullbacks were terrific. I thought the left back and more the first half, Adam Hunt, getting forward, and they seem to be out. They want to roll inside, getting in. I mean, I would always encourage midfielders, you know, count how many times you get in the box in open play, but you've got kind of defenders getting in the box in open play. So in a way, that's I think that's very commendable. Is that something that's like a tactic? Is that the freedom you're given in that respect?
I think, yeah. I mean, I've sort of just joined back this season, so I can't talk for the whole season. But from my experience, it's a club that gives players that freedom to express their ability. I've played for some clubs where it's all very restrictive, and you have to be like, you play within yourself, and it's just all very safe, which is fine. It's just a style of play. But this is definitely a club where, you know, if you make one bad pass, they're not going to get onto you for it.
Yeah.
But you know, that has its good and its bad, because you're going to get moments like mine where centre back's in the box scoring, but you're also going to get moments where, you know, a centre back might be giving the ball away.
Yeah.
You're on the break.
Yeah.
So,
and they, to be fair, the first half particularly, it was pretty much a counter-attack team. In fact, Amir particularly, if I go back to the York game, they almost played a bit like you did against York. You know, it was like the reverse roles in that respect.
I feel like as a team, we struggle a little bit against the teams that sit back.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, I think if we were to sit back, I think we could do it for.
Yeah, because you're very dangerous.
I think I think it's just concentration. I'd say, like, you know, sometimes you can get bored, and I think that's something we suffer as a collective. Sometimes we get bored. You know, we're doing the same thing and it's working, but we think that because we haven't scored, we need to try something else, or you know, and it's like self-destruct in a way.
Yeah, well, as I say, look, having been a manager as well, I'd be frustrated today because, like I say, I always think about how hard you work for goals compared to how hard you concede them sometimes. Not saying you can, but sometimes you can take it off to opposition and go, do you know what? You can't odds that. Fair play. You could say that about both your goals today. Really, okay, the guy could be tighter to you, perhaps, Dan. You have just, I don't know what wand you wave around at times, but I don't know how you've got that in, and that's a great finish. Even you know, you still got to finish it. Whereas their goals are just a bit soft. But what I'll do is to finish up, Dan, just to come back to you on your. How long have you been out of? You've been around the professional game, right? From the academy and scholars and that kind of.
That's right, yeah. So this is my first year out of it at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, and how have you found it, Dan? How, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no,
of
course. I think it's a topic that sort of it's a tough one because it's sort of spoken about, but it's not actually regarded properly. I don't think. I think everyone experiences it differently. My friends that have gone through something similar to me, that everyone's doing something different. In my personal experience, I've found it really tough. I thought, I could spend a lifetime talking about why I deserved it, but at the end of the day, you just have to accept it and move on. But it did knock my confidence a lot, and it wasn't just that; it was the after of it as well. I went on trial at a few different pro clubs, and I also went out to America and had a trial out over there. And the funny thing is sort of at my pro club, I got told I wasn't good enough on the ball, but I was an amazing defender. They always praised for my defending. Go out to America, I'm great on the ball, but my defending's really bad. And then I go out on trial, and then something else is bad. I'm not mobile enough, but I'm really good, but I'm not mobile enough. And it's sort of, you go to all these places, and you leave thinking, bloody hell. You found something negative about me again. And it knocks you about, definitely. Yeah. You feel it, you can't not feel it. So it has impacted me, to be fair. And I think just confidence-wise out on the pitch now, it's just in the back of your head. You try and think, I've tried so many different techniques of, right, this game I'm going to have this mentality, have that mentality, but at the end of the day, it's just there. So as I said, having that goal tonight
that gives you
a little bit of boost.
And that I always think, Dan, wherever anyone, you've had loads of those reports written, right? You'd have been on the PMA throughout your youth, and you've seen all these reports people write and coaches and what have you. A lot of different opinions. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this. I witnessed some of these reports getting copied and pasted. And it was something that, hang on, you're talking about these people that are hanging on your every word, like you've just described, and yet you, as the professional people, are copying and pasting comments. So that isn't relevant to that individual, and yet you've took that piece of information and it's stuck. And the biggest thing in sport, and if I can give you something to take away, technically, tactically, all the holistic stuff, all the things you've ever been told, self-belief and confidence are the biggest attributes. And when that gets knocked, it's tough, right? It's tough. And what I witnessed out there was a very, very talented, both of you, really talented. In fact, throughout the team, there's probably another 4 or 5 that I could pick out, which are really, really talented. And you never know who's watching, right? You just never know. I've spotted 2 people in the stand that I recognise that have just had a little nod and nod back. So there's always people watching. Always remember that, especially around these levels. And what have you got any idea now to transition out of the game career-wise, or are you just kind of in the kind of middle of this blur at the minute and thinking about where you're going to be?
So I actually took 2 A-levels alongside my scholarship.
Wicked.
So I'm sort of in a better place than other people in terms of that, because my academics have always been as important as my football. Most of my nights during my scholarship were just spent in a library by myself learning maths.
Crikey. Wow.
So some people call it sad, but
no, it's not.
So
admiration for that.
Yeah. So sort of this year, I'm taking what you call a gap year. I'm studying another A-level, and I'm hoping to head out to America and attend a really good academic
see where that takes you.
University, and obviously get a scholarship, play a good level of football out there. I had a few opportunities over here to still go in at some pro clubs, but after being on trial at a few of them, to me they're just all the same. It's all the same. It's all a copy of itself, and I just thought, it's not what I want to be around. It's not me as a person. I sort of got a bit of imposter syndrome being around it. So, I'm grateful I did my A-levels and in
them trial games as well. A lot of times they're put together. I know they're trying to showcase players and stuff, but alongside a load of people you don't know, the game is very normal, I would say, because everyone's trying to impress in some sort of way. And you know what? Again, the other thing I would say to both of you, really, whatever you're doing, wherever you go, is to feel wanted. And in that scenario, you just feel like, well, it's all coming from me that way. If I was that good, if I was that talented, you know, your phone's going to ring, you're going to feel wanted, and it's a horrible scenario to be in. But credit to you both. It's great to see. I've come to this club twice, and I'll move on. But I've definitely got that memory, and I want to come back because the board are great as well. Your managers are absolutely terrific guys. Dan, particularly around the pro bit. Thanks for opening up. That is absolutely gold because you're the A target of who everything we're trying to do. There's a guy called Dr. Chris Platts. I'd love you to introduce you to him.
Yeah,
you'd be like his star student if you like, because it's exactly what he's trying to do to help young people in your scenario. So keep it up, both of you. Thanks for you coming in to talk to us.
No, thank
and
you.
Really appreciate it. I probably want a shower now.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's me, but I wasn't running around. So yeah, you guys go get a shower. Thanks a lot, chaps.
Thank you very much.
Ta-ra. I'm just going to wrap this up now and head home for a cup of tea. But the comments there from Dan has absolutely hit home. So Dan, Carey-Evens, thank you very much, and Amir, what a lovely young men as well. Really, really good lads. Do you know what? It sums up this club. The managers are great. The chairman and his wife are absolute top club. So thanks very much, Biggleswade, yet again. And Dan, to open up and talk like that is absolute gold. Thank you very much, mate. Whoever looks after you, your parents, guardians, whoever, should be very, very proud of you. What a tremendous young man. And Amir, thanks for joining us as well. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone work so hard on a football pitch. But yeah, there you go. So that's a wrap from me. On to the next one.